There was hate, a real pre-fight brawl, blood, cages. Next, it's Haye v Dereck Chisora, and Del Boy will join us.
Sure, when I come and I bring it, you got it, because I'm coming for you. Mark my words.
My motivation is beating the hell out of Dereck Chisora. That's all the motivation I need.
I'm more hard than him and his whole camp.
If he does what he did against Vitaly, he'll get knocked out in 2 rounds maximum.
Not personal. He's gonna whoop it.
I know he's dumb, but he's not dumb enough to think he can outbox me.
There ain't gonna be another fight like this for a while.
I definitely believe he's got a screw loose.
I'm gonna be all over that boy. He ain't gonna know what he is.
He'll get knocked out. No matter what he does, he'll get knocked out.
It's about 2 guys who dislike each other, who want to beat the shit out of each other, plain and simple.
The highs and lows of the heavyweight division. Dereck Del Boy Chisora and David Haye. Back in early 2012 and the summer of 2012, let's get it right, they hated each other. Now, love this, wait for this, David Haye looks after Dereck Del Boy Chisora's career, and they're friends. Dereck, I'm going to come to you first. And I've got to take you back to that night. You're smiling, you know where I'm going. You've just lost a 12-round decision to Vitaly Klitschko. You've pushed him harder than anyone's done for 5 years. And then at the press conference afterwards, it all goes wrong. It gets nasty. What went on, Dereck?
I sat on that podium and he looked at it. I was like, it's gonna be a while before I have a big fight. So I need to do something. And then David was just there. And then this happened.
David, you were there because German TV had asked you to go along to the post-fight press conference. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was doing the commentary for, I think, Setanta at the time. Boxing, I think it was Box Nation, I think, at the time. I was doing the commentary for them. So I was doing some bits for them and a bit for, I think it was RTL as well. So I was jumping from both broadcasters. But the reason why I was really there was I had been negotiating with Vitaly Klitschko for a fight. I remember I just lost in my last fight to Vladimir Klitschko on a points decision, and I thought, you know, the way I'd get back my title would be to fight Vitaly and beat Vitaly, then have the unification with Vladimir. So we agreed all the terms and everything was all sorted, and then they went quiet. So I was basically, I couldn't get in contact with him through Bernd Bunzer or from Vitaly himself. So I wanted to sort of gate crash the post-fight press conference and ask him why the fight, you know, why did he go so quiet? I thought we had the fight arranged because that was the fight that I really wanted at the time. And then, obviously, as Dereck just said, he wanted some drama. So he took umbrage to me sort of getting out there, start screaming and shouting. So, you know, it all kicked off in a real big way, and it was pretty crazy stuff, you know. None of that was planned. Everyone said, was that like a planned thing? And when I'm telling you, it couldn't have been any more unplanned. It was crazy.
David, I know it wasn't planned, but I've got to warn viewers watching this now. What you're about to watch is both very entertaining and at the same time, probably very wrong. This is what happened in February in Munich when Dereck Del Boy Chisora and David Haye met at a post-fight press conference.
David, you want to tell me that in my face?
You said you want to fight me. I agreed the money.
Take him away, I say.
I agreed with everything. Why are you not fighting me now?
I'm coming there and tell me my face.
You want to fight me?
Well, that was what happened that night in Munich. There was a lot more. There was a tripod being thrown around. People were cut. There was a lot of aggravation. It was all sorted finally, and the two of them did agree to a fight. But on that particular night, Dereck, what made you leave that top table? You just put up a fantastic performance against Vitaly, perhaps the hardest fight he'd had for 5 or 6 years. What made you leave and go out and respond to what David Haye had said to you?
think it was more like another payday, and being young in the game. That's it. Those two things basically: paycheck and being young in the game.
And David, the moment that Dereck left that table and wandered down to you, did you know it was going to end the way it ended?
No, not at all. I wouldn't. No, I thought I had enough control to not end up getting into a brawl. I thought, I don't know. I thought there would be some banter, a bit of jostling, but no, I didn't realise until it was all over. And I couldn't even really remember too much of it, to be honest, until way after people sending me pictures of it and whatnot. But I remember feeling really disappointed in myself. I remember afterwards going, why did I do that? I remember thinking to myself, I was there solely to fight Vitaly Klitschko. That was my whole plan, was right, and make sure Vitaly Klitschko either fights you or says, I won't fight you. That was my whole plan. And then all of the attention got shifted from Vitaly to Dereck, and I wasn't there for that. I just lost to Vladimir Klitschko. In my mind, I want the heavyweight title fight and nothing else. And then now it's about me and Dereck. So it was a master stroke from Dereck, because if that wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't have fought him. I guaranteed wouldn't have fought him. So, as he said, he was young in the game, but it was it was a strategically good thing to get the fight you wanted. Frank Warren, to his credit, he found a way, the Luxembourg Boxing Federation, he found a way to get all of the undercard on, to get West Ham Stadium to promote one of the biggest non-heavyweight title fights ever. I can't think of another heavyweight fight that wasn't for a world title that generated as much money and hype as that one did.
Now, Dereck, David had been out of the ring at that point for about 7 months since losing to Vladimir. Did you think that break he'd had, the fact he'd retired, did you think that would give you an advantage on the night, or did you believe you could beat him anyway?
Yeah, I trained to my ability at the time. We had a game plan, and everything went well in camp. As you know, in the heavyweight game, if you get clipped on the right spot at the right time, you're gone. And what happened to me, I got clipped at the right spot and the right time, and I was gone. So got up, I was like, I got knocked out, that's it. But at the time, when I was training, yes, any man is beatable. By the time David just caught me with a good punch.
Well, we're going to look at the fight in a bit of detail, in fact, in great detail with the pair of you a little bit in a few minutes. But first, I want to bring back Adam Booth, and I want to introduce Don Charles. And you saw a clip of Don Charles during that skirmish. Of course, Adam Booth trained David Haye, but Don Charles was the man that had worked with Dereck Chisora and had worked on the strategy that night to beat Vitaly. Adam and Don. Don, first of all, I hate to do it, but I've got to take you back to that night of that ugly skirmish in that press conference room in Munich, when Dereck leaves the table. You follow him straight away, and then it just gets really ugly. Did you suspect that it was going to turn ugly?
Absolutely not, 100% no. It's just an automatic reaction. When Dereck got up, I wish he hadn't got up. When he got up, it was an automatic reaction to, I'm always by his side. Like I said, it's an automatic reaction to make sure, to watch his back like you do. Me and Dereck, like I always say, he's like my son. So basically, I've always got his back.
Now, Adam, you were there in the crowd, watching innocently, not really that involved. And suddenly you got sucked into it in more ways than one. You ended up with a gash on your head from a tripod, which, when we analysed the film, it was actually David who was swinging the tripod. We shouldn't laugh, but those are the reality. Those are the facts of a very ugly night.
I was standing next to David, and the plan was to try and embarrass Vitaly enough to start communicating again. That was why we were there. Then that interaction verbally happened between David and Dereck. Dereck walks up, wasn't expecting anything to happen. I have seen David in the past, though, sort of punch first and ask questions later, but it wasn't in my consciousness at that moment in time. And he did. And what people might not realise is that there were so many cameras going on, flashlights going off from the cameras, couldn't see a thing. All I knew is that I had a hold of what I thought was David to try and pull him out, and then everyone just got locked up, couldn't see anything, and then the next thing I know, I felt something hit me on my head, and didn't see where it came from, who threw it, and it was, it was actually a bit of a nasty atmosphere. It wasn't planned. It turned ugly very quickly.
And Adam, I know that there was always the chance, always the effort to try and embarrass Vitali into fighting David because he had made promises in the past. But by the time David stepped in the ring, he'd been out of the ring for 12 months. Did you have any concerns, not just as his trainer, but also as his friend?
No concerns that he'd been out the ring for a long time. A bit like the Morc-Mormeck fight, the challenge was that he was a guy that didn't want to box, just wanted to get in his face, use his heavyweight size that Morc-Mormeck didn't have to make him work at a pace and a tempo that naturally David's style doesn't flourish under, so that I guess in the second half of the fight that they would want to capitalise on any fatigue that they could have caused in David. That must have been their plan. But so in the preparation of that one, it was different to Morc-Mormeck because you had the size to deal with. And the fact that, Dereck had just taken everything that Vitali could have landed on him. So, there was no evidence necessarily that he was going to get knocked out. So the whole preparation for that fight was about making David comfortable with the uncomfortable. And we had some MMA guys come in for training. He did a lot of grappling. He would go from grappling into sharp punching, from grappling into sharp punching, so that the grappling didn't tighten him up and tire him out, so that the shots would come out more freely. What ensued was very entertaining, an incredible night, an incredible event, masterpiece by Frank Warren. And certainly, whether on the winning side or the losing side, it was a scenario, event, a time of our lives that we're always going to remember.
It certainly was a massive event, a masterpiece event. And finally, to you, Don, before the end of the fight, before it ended, before Dereck was dropped, we're going to watch the fight in a moment with the two boxers. Did you have any concerns in the days before, during the day, or on the build-up to a fight? Could you tell perhaps that there was something wrong with Dereck? Or was he, in your opinion, in the absolute perfect shape, mentally and physically?
Yeah, look, we've prepared for many fights. Like you said, we'd fought Vitali Klitschko, the hardest hitting heavyweight during that period. So when you've come through that unscathed, then we believe we could prepare to fight someone in the caliber of David Haye. Camp went well, had hiccups, but what worried me was on the actual day of the fight, my fighter's mood changed. The journey we normally make to the stadium, we were given times, scheduled to be there at a certain time. My fighter decided he wanted to go to a restaurant in Mayfair called Scott's, a very posh restaurant. And that's not what you do prior to a fight, any fight. In fact, we didn't know where he was going because we were in separate cars. To my surprise, we ended up in Mayfair. And to my surprise, the whole team, we were in this restaurant, which I didn't like at all. As the coach, my duty was to aid the fighter, deliver the fighter. For a fight of this magnitude, everything had to be on point. We've done all the hard preparation as far as I'm concerned, the hard parts. The easiest part was to get yourself safe and sound to the venue on time so nothing is rushed. So we got to the stadium, to the venue, to Upton Park, very rushed. And obviously my phone was going off the hook every minute. I was getting a call from Andy Ayling. I was getting a call from Dean Powell, God rest his soul. I was getting a call from Frank Warren, where are you? And it was quite embarrassing because as a coach, it's my duty, my obligation to deliver the fighter. We've been given the times, weeks and weeks prior to the event, time to be there. And obviously, like I said, I was very, very, very upset with that. And Derek, as you know, is an extraordinary character, and that's what makes him fire. That's what makes him tick. And I told him up in the dressing room, I said, look, you better go in there and win this fight. On the day, that's when it all went wrong. On the journey, that journey to Upton Park, in my opinion, offset everything for us.
Don Charles, thanks for your insight and your honesty. And as ever, Adam, thanks for sharing the build-up to this fight, and more importantly, the build-up to the night when David Haye first became a world champion in Paris back in 2007. Frank, it had been an ugly night in Munich, and the build-up to Upton Park was ugly enough. It was, put it to you, one of the most complex fights you've ever had to put together.
It's probably the first fight that was ever demanded and put together by social media. You think about it. And what happened was that, you know, Dereck was called before the Boxing Board of Control. I think at that time David had given up his licence with the Boxing Board, so they couldn't call him. And the hearing was, I was really unhappy the way the hearing took place. It was not fair, I didn't feel, to start with. And the guy who subsequently became chairman of the Boxing Board of Control, he was giving Dereck a real hard time, and he deserved some of it. But some of the other things I think the board were responsible for, and they could have protected the fighter better, protected their fighter better. Anyway, they decided to take away his licence. He wasn't suspended. They just said, we're not licensing you. And I asked them the question, does that mean he can fight in another jurisdiction? And they said, we don't care. Anyway, we left. David was unlicensed, and we talked about this fight. We met up and spoke about it. And we decided that we would go ahead and promote it. And I asked the board, and they said they would not license it. So as they said that we could, that he could be licensed in another jurisdiction, we spoke to a couple of the governing bodies, and it was Luxembourg who then decided that they would license Dereck, and obviously the same with David. So we got the fight on. We announced it. There was a lot of publicity around it. There was some bad publicity. People said it was wrong to do it and so forth. I sort of thought about it, gave a lot of thought how we'd promote it, and I thought the perfect thing was to put a fence in the middle of the two guys, so we keep them apart from each other. And I knew it'd be a good publicity stunt. I knew that it'd be a good photograph for the press and also for the TV cameras. And we got on it was on the main news. This wasn't just a normal boxing press conference. We managed to get the national media to cover it, radio, everybody was on top of it. So we got magnificent press, some of it bad press, but we got good press. And we hired West Ham, decided to do an outdoor event at West Ham. I spoke with David Sullivan, who's a friend of mine, and he was quite behind it. The WBO backed the fight. And the undercard was a few problems on that, getting some of the people who were worried about losing their licence, but the people who did fight on the card, what they were doing was legal. There was nothing illegal about it, and they obviously didn't lose their licence, nor were they suspended by the Boxing Board. And we got it on. It was buzzing the place. I mean, it was just so much tension, so much atmosphere in the venue. And again, I backed against David. I felt Dereck would have the beat of him. As I say, I was really annoyed that he wasn't there on time, but I still felt that he'd been very active. He showed what he could do against Klitschko. He gave Klitschko a hard fight, and I just felt it'd be a very competitive fight. And that's how it turned out. It was a competitive fight, but at the end of the day, David has that absolute power in his fist, and just done what he always does. Done the job. He threw those bombs, and it was lights out for Dereck.
Frank, you have set the scene absolutely perfectly. It's Upton Park. It's July 2012. It's coming up next. It started on a cold night in Munich in February, and it was going to end on a cold night in July at Upton Park. Dereck Chisora coming to the ring. Dereck, what's going through your mind?
Oh, mate, it was rainy. I was just buzzing for the fight, and I thought I was being paid less money, I was like, oh, I sold all this stadium and I'm getting paid less money, but you know what? I enjoyed the fight though. It was good fun.
It was good fun. That's Dereck Chisora in the ring. David Haye leaving his changing room. David, a very serious face on you there.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be a tough night. I knew it was going to be, Dereck was a lot more bullish than guys I'd fought in the past. Even Vladimir Klitschko allowed me to fight at range. And as you saw from the Morc-Mormeck fight, when a fighter pressures me and puts me under pressure, shots can slip through. The shot that knocked me down against Morc-Mormeck was a close shot that Dereck throws plenty of. So Dereck, in my mind, was a fighter who was 20 kilograms, maybe 25 kilograms heavier than Morc-Mormeck. So I knew I had to be all business, and it wasn't a time for smiles. It wasn't a time to enjoy the ring walk. I just wanted to get in there, all business.
And there had been 600 people at the Leicester Square Odeon the day before when Dereck had weighed in a full 37 pounds more than you, David. So not only was he a lot more than Morc-Mormeck, he was a lot more than you.
Yeah, he was. We knew it was big, and we had to prepare as such. We made sure we got all of the boys from London Shoot Fighters into the gym, and they assisted. Where you can see one of them there, they assisted. Marius, Alexis, all the boys. They all assisted in the rough and tumble, getting inside, pushing me around. So when I did get into a clinch with Dereck, I could walk him back and not look like the smaller, lighter, weaker man.
And Dave, you'd been in with some big heavyweights at that point. Dereck seemed to actually push you around if he wanted to push you around. Were you surprised by his strength?
No, I had a very tough sparring partner. I brought in Carlos Takam for about 6 weeks prior to that. And the first few spars were horrible because he's the same size as Dereck, solid, same strength, and he just walked me down. And it was really, really uncomfortable. And as Adam said, he put me in my uncomfort zone, and I had to be comfortable in my uncomfort zone. And I remember watching Evander Holyfield when he fought Mike Tyson, and I can only imagine what Holyfield was feeling before that fight. But the one thing I noticed in that fight, which was a big turning point for me, was the fact whenever he got into a clinch with Mike Tyson, he always walked him backwards. And when you're fighting someone who's used to coming forward, finding a way to topsy-turvy it is the way to go. And the boys from London Shoot Fighters, the grapplers and wrestlers and the jiu-jitsu guys, really worked on some nice little tricks, some nice little movements, and getting my underhooks in, walking him back, and actually Dereck actually trains with these guys now. These guys are working with Dereck and teaching him the things that they taught me to. So it's nice. It's nice how it all works out, but it's all about positioning, all about being prepared for being prepared for your opponent's attributes.
Here, Dereck, we've got Michael Buffer introducing you. The late Dean Powell is putting the last bits of Vaseline on. You look very serious. And
R.I.P.
what's going through your mind?
I was ready to rock and roll, man. I'm ready to fight. I'm excited. It's a big occasion. Most fighters want to get to this stage, and all I did was try and get on this stage. I remember winning the British title in this stadium. It was amazing. It was a great night. And then Davey's wearing trainers. His body. I think he paid the ref a little bit of money and the judges because, as you can see, his body armor is right at the top of his it's like a bra right now. It's got it round. It's right at the top. I can't get my body shots in.
David, let me ask you two things. First of all, the reason why you're wearing trainers. Just remind us again why you've got trainers on and not traditional boxing boots as we go into the first round.
There was I had an issue in my prior fight where I walk in through the rain, and I don't believe it helped my footing with the way boxing boots are made with a slick sole. So when we realised it could be rain, you know, we made sure that there were trainers on, and it worked out okay. There were squash trainers, and I sparred in them a lot, and it felt pretty comfortable. I knew Dereck Chisora had some big hooks to the body, so I didn't want to give him any body to hit. So I got the highest box I could find, so to save those lower abdominals and lower ribs. But even doing that, he actually put one of my ribs out in this fight. So you can see why I had, and that was with him being up high. So good thing I did.
And Dereck, this is the first time, if I'm not mistaken, that you've ever watched this fight. Is that true?
Yes.
And what are you
right.
making of it
I don't
so
really
far,
watch my
Dereck?
fights back. Naive. If I go back in the ring right now, I'll probably take David out in the first round. With the things I know right now.
You can't say that. The pair of you,
you probably would at the moment. You probably would at the moment.
You're like brothers at the moment.
No, I'm being serious. To be honest with you, he knows I would as well, because the way he's showed me how to train and everything, how to move around in the ring, I'll be a nightmare for him right now. Like, if I was trained by if I had his knowledge at that time, this fight would have been a nightmare for him. Because the things David showed me and the things to do and how to train. Because right now, I think I'm fit, but I'm not fit.
David, he's making you do a lot of work, Dave, a lot of movement, reminiscent in many ways of Marc-Mormeck.
He was making me do a lot of work, but I was prepared for it. And Dereck's right. This version of Dereck Chisora is significantly not as solid. He's not as fit. His head movement is going the wrong way. He's got lots of bad habits ingrained, you know. And he's over the years he's become so much more effective. And yeah, he's right. I'm not sure if it'd beat me, but it would have been significantly harder. If the new
get it right, man.
Jumped in the ring with it'd definitely be a lot harder work, there's no doubt.
Got the first one out the way, yeah? He's loading up, that's good, he's loading up.
Dereck,
yeah?
as you're sitting down there, are you thinking, I know it's only the end of the first round, are you thinking, I can beat this guy? This guy's not big enough, he's not strong enough. What are you thinking as you're sitting down there with Don talking to you?
Keep going. You know, this kid, Don is saying, chuck the jab, keep it straight. Because as you can see, I was chucking my right hand with it like over the top for some reason. I don't know why, but I kept on saying, keep composed and stuff like that. But I never watched these fights back to back, so this is my first time watching it.
This is round 3 now, Dave. You've been out of the ring for a year. Are you feeling any of that rust, any ring rust at all?
Not so much rust. I could feel his strength. I could feel it was a heavy pace, although there wasn't that many punches thrown. You know, just the sheer velocity of him coming at me, like even in little clinches like that, I'm walking him back, but it does take energy for me to walk him back, as he's used to coming forward. And when you're trying to push a man who's 18 odd stone backwards, when you're only 15 stone yourself, it's a lot, but it's worth it. It's worth using that bit of energy for the psychological advantage for the judges and for Dereck. Like here, we're both tying up. I'm pretty sure he would not have expected me to be he was expecting me to run away from him continuously and him have to chase me down. So when I'm sort of holding my ground with him and pushing him back, I think, you know, that wouldn't have been in his mind coming into this fight.
And Dereck, you're putting an awful lot of pressure on David, sometimes just with your feet, sometimes by just blocking his shots, but you're making him work non-stop in the third round.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just the run where they like caught it off on the foot, like when it was 2 minutes in. But I kept on moving. I just wanted to get there. But my punches were not very snappy, basically. So I was trying to get there. He was very fast, David, to be honest with you. I'll cover the space and then he'll go backwards again, you know, and stuff like that. But it was a good fight.
So, Dereck, are you saying you didn't feel very sharp on the night?
I turn him in and I put him on the ropes.
No, I listen, there's no taking no excuses. I was good. I was ready to fight for the night. I was ready to fight. But David came in a better shape than I. You know, his punches were very straight. My ones were very, very curvy and stuff like that. But it's one of those ones.
It is a very fast pace, Dave. It has to be said, and you're having to work as much as he's making you work, which is basically every second of the fight. You're not being able to take a second's breather.
But that I knew that would be the case, and I knew that we'd get into clinches, and I'd go from wrestling to punching, wrestling to punching. That's why we brought in all the guys from London Shoot Fighters, the guys that Dereck worked with on a daily basis now, you know, to get me in the type of shape required to give away, you know, 30 odd pounds in weight, and then to still be, you know, firing big shots. You know, and that was a big shot he caught me with right at the end of the round, and a little shoulder bars just for good measure. You know, I like that. You know, but that's what I was expecting. I was expecting a rough, tough fight. That's why I wasn't smiling and singing coming to the ring. Because I knew it was going to be like this. I knew it was going to be rough and tough. It wasn't going to be fun. It wasn't going to be like I'm the feel good. It was just I was going to be in my uncomfort zone. That's why we brought in very tough sparring partners to get me used to being in my uncomfort zone. And you know, and even in this point, you know, it was hard. It wasn't an easy fight. You know, I was breathing, but I knew when I sat down at the end of any round, I'd have 1 minute and I'll be fresh for the next round to do another 3 minutes of work, no matter how tired I get. And now Dereck knows it. Dereck knows no matter how hard he punches in one round, 1 minute is all you need to recover for the next round, because I was in that type of shape. And now Dereck is in the shape I was in then, now. So that's why I'm confident that, you know, he's going to go on and win world titles.
Now, Dereck, you talked about being naive in a couple of rounds ago. Now, you've hurt David at the end of that round. They've managed to grab a few extra seconds, pulling up his trunks, the very high trunks. Did you feel that you'd hurt him at the end of the third round, or did you feel that you just managed to catch him? Because
I thought, like, you know, the rounds were getting in the fourth round. I figured I was getting there, and I just done a silly mistake. I think it's just the round I got knocked out in.
No, it's the next round, Dereck.
No.
Yeah, I thought I was getting there now, so I was putting more pressure on.
David, at this point, have you fully recovered from being clipped at the end of the third round?
Yeah, a minute of sitting down is enough to recover. My legs, it wasn't a big shot, like it didn't shake me to my boots. It was a shot that sort of buzzed me, but it wasn't, you know, anyone that big hitting you, you know about it. But I wasn't really feeling, I was actually feeling good here. I'm smiling, and I felt that I hurt him with that shot, and I didn't want to rush in too much now, so I just go back to his little shots around the side. You know, it wasn't the time to start letting, it wasn't the time to start letting go, because I know he was waiting for me to counter me. So I just wanted to just let him come forward, because I wanted to. The plan was to punch him as he was walking forward. So you'll see. The plan was, as you see here, whenever I move to my left, I am to step my right foot. I think it's the next round. At the end of this round, I start doing it. And it's something I practice to sort of walk away. As we noticed, Dereck sort of follows you around. He doesn't, at this stage, he's got it out of his system now, but it was a time when he just follows you forward instead of trying to tracking you properly. And I was relying on him doing that, and fortunately he did. As it was a heavy pace. It was a heavy pace, and it was a heavyweight pace, a good heavyweight pace. It was a tough fight. As you can see, he's using his size and using his weight.
It was a real heavyweight pace. Dereck, are you still feeling fresh enough at this point? And had here, as we approach the last 40-odd seconds of round 4, had David hurt you at this point? Had he stunned you? Had he buzzed you?
Yeah, he helped me on the on the fourth round, beginning of the fourth round. He hit me with a good shot, which kind of made me go backwards a little bit.
As we end the 4th round here, Dereck, going into what would be the 5th and last round, you've got 60 seconds, but are you still feeling fresh enough, or do you feel there's something missing? Do you feel you're just lacking a bit of zip, a bit of speed?
Yeah, the zip was coming out now. The zip in the punches was coming out. Yeah, see, that shot hurt me, so I went backwards on that one. There.
Yeah, it's the fact that I landed an uppercut like that, and what does he do? He looks at me and throws one straight back. You know, so most heavyweights would be on the floor after taking that, but he was able to absorb it and just let his hands go. And that's what makes him a very, very tricky customer, as normally those punches keep people move away from you, but he just kept them going.
Here we go. It's the 5th and what would be the last round. Dereck, you start this round particularly fast.
Yeah, I did that. You know, because Don said, oh, you need to go more. You need to push more. So by pushing more, I did so many mistakes.
And it was those mistakes, Dave, that you're waiting for. Him to commit so that you could pick him off.
Yeah, it wasn't so much for him to commit. It was for me to... We worked on this thing. He hasn't done it yet. He normally did it in later on in his fights where he follows you around, and I think I started doing it now. When he gets me to the corners and I slip under his right hand, like there, similar to there, but see how he came forward there, sort of southpaw. He doesn't normally do that, but he did it then, and it was pretty effective for me. I do it again and he doesn't do it. He keeps tracking me down, he's walking me down, and I'm waiting for him to shoot, and I'm going to roll under his right hand. There, and then I step away, and that's the little plod he does then to walk forward. That's what I'm waiting for, and he does it once there, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, keep coming, and he's looking for the power. He's doing
so
the right
basically
thing,
you're
body shots, and tying me up.
So basically, Dave, you're setting him up. You've been setting him up, working on it, and you're starting to get close to the finish here with leading it off with the right hand.
It wasn't so much setting him up. It was waiting for him to do something that he always does in a fight when it gets to a certain point. He's done it once here. I think he does it one more time as he comes. I got to go underneath when he throws his big right hook. Is coming underneath it. He's tracking me back, and I'm waiting for it to step out. There, I did it there. That's it. That's that move there I did. When I roll underneath it, he sort of walks forward without thinking. There, and I step out again, and then I thought to myself, there, he's done it 2 times in a row. The next time he does it, let you stay in that south position and throw the left across. So he's done it 2 times in the last 30 seconds. And I'm waiting for it. That's all I'm thinking to my mind. I'm like, finally he's did it, because I played, there you go. And then that was the shot there. So that's what I've been practicing on the pads for weeks and weeks. And that's the shot I hurt Carlos Takam with when I was sparring with him. So that was, and it took a long time to get that into my armory. But when I landed it in sparring, particularly in the last spar I did with him, that's what gave me confidence that it was going to be a big key in this fight. And obviously when you get a man hurt, you've got to just keep punching, just keep letting your hands go.
So, Dereck, this will be the first time you've seen this since the night.
Yes.
And what can you remember of that, Dereck?
And don't forget, it was raining as well, so the canvas was a bit slippery.
So that helped you slip down. That might.
But you know what? It was a good fight, man. The whole promotion was good.
It was certainly a good finish for David Haye. And Dereck, the pair of you here finally embracing, coming up soon.
Yeah, there was a lot of anticipation. There was a lot of bad blood in the lead up, and we both went with it in the press. Whenever we did interviews, we really laid it on nice and thick with everybody. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. Both guaranteed knockouts from both of us. And a lot of people don't realise Dereck Chisora, after this fight, donated £25,000 to a children's leukemia charity, which no press picked up on. They picked up on a lot of the negative stuff said in the lead up to it. But we both had a gentleman's bet, and whoever lost would pay the other fighters charity £25,000. And to Dereck's credit, first thing he did after this fight was make sure those kids got that money.
Now, Dereck, it was an enormous night, and just like in many ways, the defeat that David suffered many years earlier to Carl Thompson, even though you'd been in some big fights, you were in bigger fights after this, Dereck. You seem to grow in defeat.
Yeah, you know what? I would say, God has got a plan for me. I think I've lost 9 fights, and I keep going. The best is to come. Training-wise is amazing. I think I'm the only fighter who keeps losing and who keeps going. But, that's all to do with God and with the directions He sends me, to be honest with you, because most people would have said, oh, you should retire, but you know what? As long as I can punch, I'm still going.
Dave, it was fantastic to see that embrace in the ring and the relief all of us inside the business felt when the pair of you embraced like that. And of course, since then, you've become, you've got a fantastic bromance, which is also a fantastic business together. Yeah,
after that fight, it was the hatchet had been buried. We realised, we both had ample notice. We were both in shape. We both went there, both did our best, and whoever won. And after that, if I would have lost, he would have lost. Regardless, we both went in there, gave everybody a great night of entertainment, and that was it. There's nothing else to say. Then congratulations, so thanks for the opportunity, and good luck with whatever you're going to do. And years later, when Dereck, when we started working together, I knew from that fight, it might have looked easy, but it wasn't. It was very tough. And I remember saying to Adam after the fight, can you imagine if Dereck did the training I do? And he was like, thank God he doesn't.
So, Dereck, you're still fighting. David's no longer fighting. But what does David leave behind? What does David mean to you? As a man, you like sharing a gym with him. You finally shared a ring with him. What does David mean to you as a fighter?
Man, I think there's only less fighters in the world who came up from cruiserweight and then winning the heavyweight champion of the world. And, David has made history for United Kingdom by doing that, and the way the way he promoted himself from coming from the amateurs to the professionals and doing everything by himself. Not trying to depend on the promoters and stuff like that. You have to give a shout out to him and Adam Booth for what they did for themselves and attracting the right fights and, doing massive numbers on box office, on pay-per-view, and, that's a legacy he leaves behind for himself and his kids and stuff like that.
Dereck, thank you for your time and thank you for watching back to that night at Upton Park for the very first time. Dereck Chisora, thank you so much. So, David, we've seen 3 of your fights. 3 entertaining, dramatic, controversial, and unforgettable fights. If I had to ask you, if I had to send you to a desert island, what fight would you take with you on a DVD to play forever?
just one fight. Maybe it has to be the Nikolai Valuev fight, as that was the fight that I pictured since I was a little baby, since I could think, since I knew what boxing was. I wanted to be the heavyweight champion of the world, and all of these cruiserweight fights that you saw there were all in directing me towards that. You know, every decision I ever made, every sparring session I ever had, that was in the back of my mind, becoming a heavyweight champion. Even when I lost as an amateur, even got knocked out as an amateur, even when I got knocked out as a professional, it didn't matter, because I was going to be the heavyweight champion at some stage. This was just a hurdle, and it was the belief that one day that would happen. Watching Rocky, watching Ivan Drago getting beaten by Rocky in Russia, that was it. That's going to be me one day, and all of a sudden I'm walking to the ring against Nikolai Valuev, and I'm thinking, this is what I've been saying since I was a kid, and getting in there and applying the tactics and making it. And when it was out from London, England, their new heavyweight champion of the world, that was when it was like, that was the one. That for me, you know, it wasn't the most entertaining fight. It wasn't a slugfest. I didn't get knocked down. It wasn't like the Morc-Mormeck fight, the McEnany fight. But for me, it was the result of that fight and what that signified, putting my name up there with all of my heroes, Ali, Foreman, Fraser, and you know, all those fighters who had the WBA heavyweight championship of the world at one stage in history. I mean, my name's there, and no one could ever take that away from me.
David, thanks for sitting with us today and taking us through those fights, and remembering back to the night when you did the improbable and beat the 7-foot-tall beast, Nikolai Valuev. Well, that's all this week from What Went Down. David Haye will be remembered as a double world champion, as a man who delivered, as a man who could take a man out with just one punch. He was in some truly unforgettable fights. He was a British boxing icon. See you next week.